Well, ho, 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 everybody. Welcome to another semi-daily movie review. 12 Days of Christmas movies. Still going on. Still happening. Bringing the gift of joyous Christmas cinema to all the world. Today we're going to be talking about the 1988 film Ernest Saves Christmas. It's directed by John R. Cherry III. Story by Ed Turner, screenplay by B. Klein and John R. Cherry, I believe. It stars Jim Varney, Douglas Seal, Oliver Clark, Noel Parker, Gaylord Sartain, Billy Bird, and others. The logline plot synopsis is very short. Ernest helps Santa Claus as he searches for his successor. So yeah, I grew up watching the Ernest movies, so I guess it's not really crazy that Ernest Saves Christmas generally ends up in my sometimes rotation for Christmas. I don't watch it every year, but it's something I will often come back to if it's kind of available somewhere. This year, actually, I had like some digital credit on Amazon, and I could just buy it outright for like $2. So I was like, what the hell? Now I own Ernest Saves Christmas. So now it will be part of my Christmas rotation, my Christmas movie tradition. I grew up watching Ernest. I don't know which one was the first one I saw. I'm in 1988. I would have only been 2 years old, so probably not this one. But I do have a distinct memory of the 1991 film, Ernest Scared Stupid. One of the reasons I have such a distinct memory of it is because I had to go outside after the movie and go get our family dog. And where we lived, we kind of lived in rural Massachusetts, and I had to go like out into the dark, a little bit like where the woods were a little bit, and I was terrified. I was terrified to go out there after watching that movie. I was 5 years old, might have been 6 by the time I actually saw it, so maybe it was like the year after my parents ended up renting it, and ever since then, Ernest has always just kind of occupied a space in my life, I guess, to a certain degree. Mostly during my childhood, It's interesting though. Sometimes I go back every 5 years or so, and I'll watch like an Ernest movie, and there's like a run of them from the 80s to the early 90s that are actually all pretty solid. They're all pretty solid movies. Hold up pretty well for what they are. You kind of got to grade them a little bit on a curve. They are a little bit more aimed at kids, a lot of slapstick, a lot of silly stuff. They do end up getting just kind of bad at a certain point in the mid to late 90s, which is when they kind of stopped making them. I don't think there's anything Ernest related post 1999, if I'm not mistaken. But John Cherry and Jim Varney, this was their bag. John Cherry, pretty much his entire filmography is Ernest movies. And Jim Varney's, most of his filmography is Ernest movies. He did some other stuff in the 80s. I think he did, like Snowboard Academy or something like that. And he did a few other bit parts here and there, but mostly what he's known for is the character of Ernest P. Worrell. And which started out, I think it's like a public access thing, or it started out, he did like local commercials. And that's where the thing where he would like talk to the camera as if the camera was a character named Vern. And I think there was a kind of like comedy bits. He was kind of a low-key, kind of folk hero comedian a little bit. And he did find his way into the mainstream. Like Ernest Saves Christmas was like a theatrical release movie. I think what came out before this, though, was Ernest Saves Camp. Ernest Goes to Camp. If I'm not mistaken. Let's see if we can pull it up real quick. Yeah, like the Ernest thing goes back to about 1983, it looks like. And he did some bit parts in television before that, but this is really where he goes, he blows up as the Ernest P. Worrell character. Yeah, Ernest Goes to Camp comes out a year before this. Then Ernest Saves Christmas. Then Ernest Goes to Splash Mountain, which is a TV short. Ernest Goes to Jail. Ernest Scared Stupid. Then he did the Beverly Hillbillies, if you remember that. Ernest Rides Again. Ernest Goes to School. Like little bit parts here and there. Ernest Slam Dunk Ernest, which was I think when they started going direct to video, and then he only does a few after Ernest Goes to Africa. Oh, that's right, he was in Three Ninjas High Noon at Mega Mountain. So there you go. And then obviously Slinky Dog and the Toy Story movies. kind of set him off. He died in 2000 at age 50. I believe he had lung cancer. He was a pretty prolific smoker, if I'm not mistaken. But, you know, gone too soon, though. Gone too soon. And from what I understand, he was a pretty nice guy. People like working with him. He had a good reputation. I think I was watching some like documentary about him or something. Some little mini doc about Jim Varney. And he just seemed like a nice dude. So Ernest Saves Christmas. Now, when we're rating Christmas movies, you kind of got to put it on the Christmas scale like you do with kids movies sometimes. Now, granted, I don't think that means everything should get a pass. I think we can demand more as an audience from even holiday fare or children's films. It doesn't have to be kind of lowest common denominator, as it is often the time. But Ernest Saves Christmas kind of straddles the line. It's weird. Ernest is kind of a side character in this movie. He is not really the focus of the movie. It's more of an ensemble piece, and the movie balances all of the characters and their kind of like little mini arcs pretty well. Ernest is not really a character that has much of an arc or anything. He just kind of is the static person in the movie. He is just Ernest. He's sweet. He's a little childish. He's clumsy. He's goofy, but always very well intentioned. Like, you can't really hate Ernest, you know. And then also in the movie they have Gallard Sarton and Billy Bird as or is it? No, it's not Billy Bird. What the hell's the guy's name? Now I'm fucking it up. The two guys. Billy Burge. Sorry, that's my bad. Chuck and Bobby. They're like kind of a Laurel and Hardy team, and they were all in all of the Ernest movies. Up until a certain. I think Ernest Rides Again might be the last one they were in. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not an Ernest expert by any stretch of the imagination, but in all of the Ernest movies that I grew up watching rather, they were always part of the mix, and they were always a great kind of extra comedic relief, because Ernest himself is the comedic relief in the movies that he's in. A lot of times they're kind of more straight, semi-dramatic stories, and Ernest is there to kind of be goofy and give you the comedy juice, if you will. And yeah, I think this movie's it's like an okay movie that has a nice Christmas sentiment and is surprisingly funny at times. Like, just the kind of the physical comedy of Jim Varney. He does all like a bunch of goofy characters while he's trying to, like, him and this girl that he hooks up with to kind of help Santa Claus, to infiltrate movie studios and sort of try to get to where he needs to go. He's always kind of playing weird characters. Like, there's a snake wrangler. There's an old aunt, which I think Aunt Edna. I think it might be what the character goes by. I could be wrong. Yeah, but anyways, it's surprising. I was surprised. I was kind of surprised how much I just enjoyed watching the movie, even though I don't think it's like the greatest thing in the world, and it doesn't have a great sort of central conflict to kind of pull you through the movie. It's a little meandering at times. It feels like it takes a long time to kind of build up to where it's going to, and for all the pieces to kind of start coming together, and it feels kind of episodic and a little, like I said, meandering, which is not, I don't know, I just didn't have a problem with it this time. You know, I've talked about this before. I think it's just part of this time of year. You're a little bit more forgiving. You kind of just want, like, the themes to be correct with your Christmas movies. You want the message to be correct. That's almost more important than, like, whether the movie is the most coherent or cohesive thing in the world. And I think this just has enough funny bits in it to kind of hold it together and hold your attention at the end of the day. Jim Varney is good for that. Like, he does keep you interested in what you're watching, and they kind of use him, not necessarily sparingly, but it's not like overkill, which you could imagine that happening with a character like Ernest. Even, later on in his career, I think, and later on in the Ernest movies, I think that kind of starts happening because they're like, well, this is what people respond to, so let's just kind of pack the movie with these things, even if they don't make any logical sense, This movie, not so much. It's definitely a little bit more balanced in that way. So that's cool. That's cool to me. I was cool with it. I guess is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know where this sits in the kind of the pantheon of Christmas movies. I was surprised. I found out recently some people have never even heard of Ernest or don't really know much about Jim Varney's filmography beyond like Toy Story. Some people are like, Ernest? What are Ernest movies? I was like, wow, that's weird. That's crazy. I can't believe I can't believe that nobody's like that. There's kind of a he is of a generation's kind of knowledge base for movies and not of people that were born like maybe even just 5 or 6 years after me. You know, because the Ernest thing, and really it was a 10-year thing, kind of a 10-year thing in terms of theatrical releases, and then Jim Varney passes away in 2000, so there's not just a lot out there kind of keeping the legacy, I guess, of Jim Varney's work alive. So that's kind of why I wanted to talk about it, because like I said, it's not like the greatest movie in the world. It's not going to blow your fucking mind, but relative to Christmas movies, I think it's an enjoyable time, and it's surprisingly charming. The other things I liked about the movie was it is clearly a lower budget movie. It kind of does feel like a bunch of friends or the band getting together and making a kind of a small little Christmas movie. And it has that kind of vibe to it the whole time. So it even makes it feel more like idiosyncratic and special in that way. I don't know who was the cinematographer on this. Let's see if the cinematographer, Peter Stein. Well, what else has Peter done? Let's see, because it does look like a movie. I'll give it that. He did the cinematography for Pet Sematary, Necessary Roughness, Mr. Nanny with Hulk Hogan. So definitely, it's almost like the invention of the flat comedy lighting. But in this movie, it felt like out of necessity rather than an actual like style. Like now you watch comedies and they all look the same visually, aesthetically. They all have the kind of the same look to them. They all look like fucking Judd Apatow movies. I mean, he's got a pretty illustrious career. Started working in the 70s. A lot of TV shows, documentaries. Seems like Ernest is kind of the thing that maybe got him a little notoriety. He did The Parent Trap 2. Oh my goodness. And I believe this is technically a Disney movie, if I'm not mistaken. I know they filmed it. It was like the first movie to be filmed on the MGM, or is it the Universal Disney lot? I can't remember. But yeah, because I think I probably saw this actually on the Disney Channel when I was a kid. That's probably when I would watch it, like repeat viewings of it. I believe was on the Disney Channel. So it is kind of like this almost forgotten Disney movie. Okay, this was the first movie filmed at Disney/MGM Studios, now named Disney's Hollywood Studios. So there you go. Beginning of an era for the Disney Corp. But I don't, obviously, I'm very curious to learn more about actually how that came about. Because it's not like a Disney movie. There's no Disney logo in the beginning of the movie or anything like that. But clearly utilizing some Disney resources. And I can't imagine that just any studio or just any production would have access to that. Or, maybe they would kind of rent these things out, farm these out to maybe low budget movies and stuff, just, as a business. That would make sense. So maybe I've just answered my own question. I don't know. But yeah, if you've never seen it or it's been a long time, give it a shot. Give it a shot. There's some funny stuff in here, and it's got a nice sweetness to it. It's got a subtle charm. And I enjoyed it for those things. All right, everybody, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to know more about Zoobox, there's a bunch of links in the description for Facebook, for Instagram, for my Twitter, for Dan's Twitter. Also, if you'd like to leave a comment, do so. Do you like Ernest? Do you know about Ernest? Is this a movie that you grew up with? I'm honestly curious to hear. Very curious to hear. Also, if you'd like to drop us a line, you want to drop us a personal email, there's something in the description, zooboxpodcast@gmail.com. Send us a Christmas letter. Let us know what you want for Christmas, and then we'll try to send it to old St. Nick. You know what I mean? All right, everybody. You have the best one ever, and Merry Christmas.